A move by Twitter sparking a new fight with President Trump. The company now, for the first time, adding a fact-check notice to the president's latest posts about mail-in ballots. The president firing back today, stating this: Republicans feel that social media platforms totally silence conservative voices. We will strongly regulate or close them down before we can ever allow this to happen. Let's bring in Fox News senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano joining us now. Judge, good morning. Thank you for being here. There's so many questions. You look out into the social media atmosphere about this debate over social media and Twitter now fact-checking the president. Can they do this?
Well, the short answer is yes. The longer answer is that the president is right about the bias in social media, and the president is also understandably not happy about his being fact-checked. I mean, nobody would. But Twitter is privately owned, or publicly held, but privately owned. It's not owned by the government. And so the First Amendment, which guarantees the freedom of speech and of the press, since it only regulates the government, does not regulate Twitter. So stated differently, Twitter can take down, modify, or correct any user it wants, including the President of the United States. Now, as for his threat to regulate or put Twitter out of business, that, of course, would require legislation, which is somewhat unlikely between now and November. There also would be legal issues if the effort were aimed at silencing someone who has the freedom of speech. Look, I don't like what they say, but I'll defend to the death their right to say it. And under a Supreme Court opinion that the president likes, called Citizens United, Twitter has freedom of speech just like you and I and the president himself.
Okay, so let's get both sides, because this story obviously digs deeper. Here's the Twitter spokesperson yesterday reacting to this. These tweets contain potentially misleading information about voting processes and have been labeled to provide additional context around mail-in ballots. This decision is in line with the approach we shared earlier this month. So, Judge, remember that, because I'm going to ask you about the context that they are then providing. It is of their own choosing as a company. But here's Brad Parscale, Trump campaign manager, with his response. Quote, "We always knew that Silicon Valley would pull out all the stops to obstruct and interfere with President Trump getting his message through to voters. Partnering with the biased fake news media, fact checkers is only a smokescreen Twitter is using to try to lend their obvious political tactics some false credibility." So what about the president's accusation that this is political interference?
Well, I don't know what he means by political interference. It is certainly political, and much of what you just read from his campaign manager is demonstrably true. But just as the campaign manager and the president have the right to say what they want about Twitter, Twitter has the same right to say what they want about the president, even if they are disguising it or guising it, as you will, in the aura of we are correcting an error because we're worried people might not vote if they follow what you suggested to them about the defects in voting by mail. So this is the level to which politics has come today. You can argue however loud and long you want of how we got here, but we are here, where these in-your-face comments will be made and used to advance a candidacy or to harm a candidacy. The president can say what he wants about Twitter, and they can say what they want about him.
Okay, so what you've heard in defense of the president by his Republican colleagues sticking up for him, saying, is there going to be fact-checking of his potential presidential opponent, Joe Biden?
Yes.
Are they going to fact-check Democrats? Go ahead.
That's a very good question. And Twitter will lose a lot of credibility. I don't know how much business they'll use because they really have no competition. But Twitter will lose a lot of credibility and make itself a target if they only fact-checked President Trump and not Joe Biden and not other leading nationally known political figures who regularly use their platforms. So that criticism, is, in my view, is perfectly valid, ought to be made, and should be responded to by Twitter.
Well, I'll finish up by throwing the New York Post cover up on the screen from this morning. Judge, I'm sure you saw it. It reads, tweet fight, Prez furious as Twitter labels him fake news. This is certainly not over. We will continue to follow all of it. Judge Andrew Napolitano, great to see you.
All the best, Sandra.